All right, we start week 3 in Houston with Carolina heading to Houston Thursday night, tomorrow night for that game. It's really a no-brainer to pick Carolina unless somehow, some way, by the magical powers of the football gods, Houston wins this. I don't really see how they could. They may win, 2 games this season, honestly. They played good against the Browns. But, Carolina's probably just as good. Maybe. I'd have to go back and watch footage. But Carolina's good. They're not a Super Bowl team, but they're possibly a playoff team. Depends on how good they play for the rest of the season. I guess they could be a sleeper option, honestly. But just week 3, just right now in September, Carolina's what? I think they're 2-0, I believe. So I'm picking them to go 3-0. Then starting Sunday games for in the noon slot. Indy heads to Tennessee. I sat for about 5 minutes. Like, okay, do I want to go Indy or do I want to go Tennessee? Now, I believe Carson Wentz is not. Actually, I don't think he was ruled out quite yet, but he sprained both ankles. Humans only have 2, and he sprained both of them. Aaron Donald rolled him into a sushi bar or a sushi roll, and just destroyed this man. Now he's injury prone all the time. So I thought without Carson Wentz, I figured Derrick Henry, Tennessee, they're probably going to run this a lot. Tennessee was down, was it 14 last week against Seattle? I think on the road, too, in Seattle, which is a very hard place to play. So I feel like they could do better against Indy. I feel like they won't maybe not go down 14, but, if they go down 7 or whatnot, you just give the ball to Derrick Henry and you just let him do his thing. So I'm thinking it's just going to be a Derrick Henry type game. Obviously, it's a divisional game, so anything can happen. But I'm picking Tennessee here. Then we have, this is probably the worst game. Oh, I forgot to do game of the week. Crap. Okay, we'll get the game of the week. I forgot to highlight that. But this is probably the worst game. No, Denver Jets might be worse. Never mind. This is the second worst game. Atlanta heads to New York or New Jersey to face the Giants. Both teams. Well, Atlanta played good. Against Tampa, kinda. It was a 10-point game before that, two interceptions or whatever, something like that. And then Giants lost by a point because they went offsides last Thursday night. So I'm picking the Giants at home. I don't know who to pick. It's just both teams are gonna be draft spots, higher up. So I'm just like, I'm just going with Giants because I just, they were closer to a win than Atlanta was last week. I just did not know how to pick this game. I didn't know how to pick Jets, Broncos either. So these are the worst 2 games of week 3. That's pretty good. Those are the bottom of the barrel, which, it's not terrible. But, 3 out of the 4 teams are 0-2. So, then we have, honestly, this should be a 325 game. But probably because Chargers just had a 325 game, it's probably got moved up into noon slot. But this is honestly worth 325. This is worth Sunday night, Monday night. This game is going to be very good. The Chargers head to Kansas City. Now, the Chargers did very good. It was sloppy football against Dallas. There was 10-plus penalties on the Chargers last week. Kansas City ended up losing to the Ravens in not really a shootout, but it was a high-scoring game. It was a pretty high-scoring game, 36-35. Basically, Kansas City lost because of the fumble at the end. But I I mean, this is going to be a good game. I think it is. Hopefully the Chargers clean up the penalties. Otherwise, that's going to cost them, and that's going to, it's going to suck because I'm picking them to upset Kansas City. That is my lock for upset of the week. I forgot to, God, I had game of the week too. I forgot to change the color to green. That's on me. But, something's just telling me, Chiefs aren't unbeatable. And if the Ravens can do it, I think the Chargers can do it. I think there's potential. The Raiders could do it. The Bills could do it potentially. So there's potential that a lot of these better teams in the AFC could beat the Chiefs. Now, maybe not all of them do it. Obviously, Chargers play them twice a year, so maybe they split with the Chiefs along with the Raiders. The Raiders and the Chargers split with the Chiefs. That could happen. But I just think that, the West is going to be very interesting. I think you're going to have three potential teams, vying for playoff spots. I'm not sold on Denver. You've played the Jets. You've played the Giants. You've played the Jags. Okay. People have them as playoff contenders already. You play the bottom of the barrel. So, I think the Chargers will do good. I think the Raiders will do good, and Kansas City will obviously do good. I'm stalling way too much on this one. Anyway, Chargers upset. That's my pick. Next, Cincinnati heads to Pittsburgh. Last week, I picked Cincinnati to upset the Bears, and they almost did that. There's a couple penalties in there, which kind of helped them. But Joe Burrow had, I believe, 3 interceptions on the day against the Bears defense. One of them was a pick 6. But Pittsburgh's just better. Now, I know last year, I think it was the second time they met, the Bengals upset Pittsburgh. Was that? No, that was at home. They were at home. Cincinnati was at home. But I think it's just too early on. I think there's potential that, they could upset later on in the season, especially if you have a healthy Joe Burrow. But I just think right now, I think TJ Watt is playing again. I could be wrong, but I think he is. So, I just think that defense can be too much. It's going to potentially be close. Again, it's a divisional rival game, so there's potential this is a close game. But I just think Pittsburgh is just, they're going to bounce back because they just, who'd they lose to? Oh, the Raiders. They just lost to the Raiders last week. Yeah, so I think that Pittsburgh's going to bounce back this week. Even though Cincinnati just lost too, but I think Pittsburgh will do better. Then Chicago heads to Cleveland. I think it's gonna be kind of an underrated game. I honestly do. I think it'll be a good game. So Bears defense. Bears defense is always gonna be decent to good. Obviously, their offense is and they still don't have a QB picked out yet, and we're 3 weeks into the season. But the Bears defense will, they'll give you a fight. Most days, I should say. Obviously, there's some days they just don't try and don't show up. But I think it'll be a good test. Cleveland is going to be a playoff team. I think a lot of people are saying that. I think that's going to be true. So Bears have a good test here. I mean, you could potentially put out Justin Fields for a couple drives there just to see how he does against that Cleveland defense, who I think that Cleveland defense is going to be a top 10 by the end of the season. Top 10 defense by the end of the season. Potentially top 5. There's potential for that. So I think the defense is going to be very good for Cleveland. So, maybe just try Justin Fields out a couple drives, see how he does against a very good defense, or potentially very good defense. I should say that. We'll see later on in the season, but there's potential that they could be a top 10. So I'm picking Cleveland at home to beat the Bears. Then Baltimore heads to Detroit. Now, something has me very nervous about this game. I'm obviously picking Baltimore. But, I mean, Detroit held in there for the first half last week against the Packers. Yes, in the second half, it got out of hand. But the first half, Detroit was hanging in there. And they almost came back to beat the Niners, too. So, I'm nervous the Lions are going to win this somehow, some way. But, there's potential. This could be a closer game than what people think. I do think the Lions are underrated for who they are. They're not a top 10 team by any means, but they're top 20. There's potential where they could be top 15 soon enough if they get this offense flowing. I think Hockenson is a very good tight end. I mean, he was making plays all over the field against Green Bay in week 2. So, I think you go to him a lot. But, I just think people are underrating this Lions team, and they're better than what people think they are. And they've had a tough schedule. You got San Francisco, Green Bay, Baltimore. Those are 3 probably playoff contenders. And again, you hung in there with San Francisco. You hung in there for a bit with Green Bay. And then there's potential you could hang in there with Baltimore. We'll see. I'm curious about this game. So I hope we get this game because I'd be interested to watch this game, honestly. Then New Orleans heads to New England. New Orleans, I don't really know what else to say here. I just think New England isn't quite that good. Obviously, they're still missing Stephon Gilmore on the PUP list. But I just think that, New Orleans is going to bounce back after being humiliated and embarrassed last week. So, I'm just going to pick New Orleans there. Not a lot to say. Not a lot to say for Arizona, Jacksonville either. One team is 0-2, one team is 2-0. Technically, Arizona should be 1-1, but the Vikings don't have a kicker, so so they are 2-0 because Vikings don't know how to do anything with a kicker. So I'm just going with Arizona here to beat up Jacksonville. This is probably going to be a 40-point game for Arizona. Jags may get up to 21. We'll see. They may get up to 21 just by the prevent defense towards the end of the game there. We'll see. Then Washington heads to Buffalo. This is another very good game. Now, I didn't really touch on it yet. I mean, this could potentially be good. I think this will be good. I think this is going to be a good game. This is going to be a good game. So, there's a lot of, potentially good games. Obviously, we'll get to... Seattle, Minnesota could be good. Obviously, this is the game of the week right here. We'll get to that. This could be probably good. This may be good. We'll see. But there's, a lot of pretty good games for week 3 here. I am picking Buffalo, though. That Washington defense is just not where they ended up last year quite yet. And I know it's only week 3. Give them time. I know that. But, I had higher hopes. I thought they would just come guns a-blazing out. Taylor Heineke is obviously back in, so he's good. He's a good QB for Washington. He's honestly very good. There's potential. He could help, along with that defense, take them back to the playoffs. I think there is a lot of potential there. But Buffalo is just a high-powered offense. So, if Washington can slow down that offense of Buffalo, I think there's potential where, the Buffalo defense got better too. I don't know. This is gonna be an interesting game. See, I'm sitting here thinking, and when I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a very good game here. So I'm gonna stick with Buffalo, even though there's a small part of me that says, I doubt that. I doubt Buffalo could win because. Depending on if, Washington defense shows up, we'll see. But this will be a good game. Then I'm just going to basically skim over this. Jets are 0-2. Denver's 2-0. Denver's going to win this. Miami, I'm going to kind of skim over this too because Miami, I don't know, they're not a good team. They went from potential playoff team to, Tua's hurt. You got 0 points. You got, blown out and 0 points on the board last week against the Bills. I think you'll score against the Raiders, but, Raiders just got this in the bag. Then Seattle, Minnesota, in Minnesota. Now, I was actually sitting here thinking, okay, this is in Minnesota. Minnesota has, did they play at home last week? Who did they play? Oh, Arizona. That's right. I forgot about that. Minnesota's not played at home yet. So I was sitting there thinking, maybe that home field advantage would help, but I'm going to stick with my gut. I'm going to stick with Seattle and Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. That offense is just going to, they're going to have 50-yard bombs to Tyler Lockett. He actually leads the league. I think it was 20-plus yards. He has 5 of them already within first 2 weeks. He has 5 deep bombs. So I'm going to stick with Seattle here. I just think that the corners are kind of a weak spot for Minnesota. I just think that, Russ Wilson, if he's going to get pressured, he's going to get outside the pocket, run it around. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett's going to be downfield. He's just going to go, yay! Just chuck the ball downfield and someone's going to catch it. So, but, there's potential where, being home for the first time for Minnesota, could, give them an advantage too, but I'm going to stick with Seattle. Then we have Game of the Week. This is supposed to be green. Tampa heads to LA, SoFi Stadium. Tampa's on the road for the first time this year. I got the Rams. I just think that home field advantage is going to be good. I think Matthew Stafford and that offense. I mean, Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford are an unstoppable pairing. I know, Tom Brady has every single wide receiver one in the universe right now on one team, but, I guess Scotty Miller's not a wide receiver one, but you know what I mean? He's got a lot of weapons. But, I just think that defense is going to be good. You have, especially Ramsey. I mean, Tom Brady better watch out for Ramsey. You got Aaron Donald coming at you. I mean, I just expect that defense to just have a field day, just playing their hearts out, doing whatever they want with that Tampa offense. Because Tampa struggled against Dallas before the 2 pick sixes. I mean, Tampa did okay. So, I expect the Rams to come out guns blazing. I think Matthew Stafford, again, he's good. He's a very good QB. So I expect this to be a very good matchup. This is going to be definitely Game of the Week. And I got the Rams at home here. Then we have Green Bay heading to San Francisco for the third or fourth year in a row, whatever it is. The past 2 days, I've been thinking, okay, I'm going to pick Green Bay, or I'm going to pick San Francisco. I'm going to pick against my team. I don't trust this team too much. But then I went back and realized San Francisco has no running backs. Their defense, they showed up against the Eagles, but they almost allowed the Lions to come back. I'm not sold on the defense quite yet, just like Washington. I don't know what's going on with Washington, but the same thing is happening with San Francisco, where I'm not feeling, the top 5 defense from San Francisco like I was 2 years ago. Obviously, last year, a lot of injuries and whatnot, COVID and whatnot. But, 2 years ago, this does not seem like the same Niners defense as it was. And again, no running game, which means Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to throw more. I think, I think Mitchell or whatever his last name is coming back. So they're going to have like a third-string corner. Oh, my God. Third-string running back as their running back number 1 against Green Bay this Sunday night. So, I like Green Bay. I just think, Green Bay's offense kind of turned on the Jets against the Lions. It'll be a real test against this Niners defense. Potentially this Niners defense could just run all over us. But, I'm not sold on the Niners offense, especially with Jimmy G. If Trey Lance was out there, I'd probably end up picking, the Niners. But, Jimmy G, I don't like that offense a whole lot, especially with no running game. So, I'm going with Green Bay, but, again, this will be a good game. I think it'll be a good game. But, San Francisco has no running back, so I don't know what you're going to do there. Which it'll be easier on Green Bay because, we didn't do – well, we did okay against the running game last week. But, so that's my gut. My gut was telling me to go with Green Bay here, even though the past 2 days I wanted to go with San Francisco. But really looking into it, I decided to just go to Green Bay. Then Philadelphia heads to Dallas. Now, this is going to be a divisional game on Monday night. Dallas has this in the bag, pretty much. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about here. Yes, Philly came out, put up 32 or whatever it was, week 1. And then they only put up 11 against the Niners, who, again, the Niners are a good team. But, Dallas is a good team, too. I think their defense is a lot better than people give them credit for. I think Dak makes that offense amazing. They have very good wide receiver. Technically, they have 2 wide receiver ones, too, on their team. So, their offense is good. Their defense is better than it was last year. Again, this is going to be a close game because it's going to be a divisional game and whatnot. But I think Dallas is going to pull it out. I just think on paper, Dallas is the better team overall versus Philly. Just, So, I'm going with Dallas here. So, that is it. I'm going to wrap up here. I already went on longer than I should have. But for now, like the video, share the video around, subscribe, and we are out of here. Peace.